Chances are, if you've played Dungeons & Dragons, Baldur's Gate 3, or even heard of either game, you've probably come across this son of a gun right here. This thing is called a Mind Flayer, and it has a reputation of being one of the most iconic and deadly creatures in all of D&D.
Oh god, why?
Starting off at the beginning, Mind Flayers are humanoid-like aberrations that are older than most history books. Their entire race seems to transcend space and time, and I mean that quite literally. Some believe they're aliens from a distant planet, while others believe that they are beings from a different time period in the future, but most agree that they originate from the astral plane and made their way into the material plane after being hunted to the brink of extinction after being big jerks. Fast forward a few centuries, and what Mind Flayers are left live together in the Underdark under colonies and the leadership of an elder brain, which acts as a hive mind. And the hive mind can communicate telepathically with any Mind Flayer within 5 miles, meaning that if you do manage to find a Mind Flayer, chances are it's already called for backup on its built-in telepathic cell phone. So keep that in mind if you ever decide to get into a fight with one of them, because they are very rarely truly alone. But let's get into the stats. Mind Flayers come in all different shapes and sizes. There's Vampire Mind Flayers, Arcanist Mind Flayers, hell, there's even Lich Mind Flayers, but before we get too deep into that rabbit hole, let's talk about basic Mind Flayers. Mind Flayers are a CR 7 creature with psionic powers, and their stat block reflects that. With a 19 score in intelligence and a score of 17 for both wisdom and charisma, they are incredibly intelligent and dangerous enemies. They do, however, lack upfront tankiness and constitution, with a strength of 11 and a constitution of only 12. With 71 average hit points, it's not hard to figure out what a Mind Flayer's weakness is. But don't let that deceive you, because Mind Flayers, even without strong physical attributes, have incredibly powerful psionic powers that can incapacitate even the strongest of characters. Touting magic resistance, innate spell casting, and more, Mind Flayers can make quick work of both barbarians and wizards alike. But the real danger a Mind Flayer proves to its enemies comes in its combination of actions available to it. Specifically, it has 3 main actions which each synergize perfectly with its kit. Firstly, we have Mind Blast. This is a rechargeable conal ability similar to a Dragon's Breath weapon that deals 4d8 plus 4 psychic damage and stuns enemies that fails an intelligence saving throw. This stun lasts an entire minute, but creatures get a save at the end of their turn to end the effect. Now, if you know anything about D&D 5th edition, or you're a fan of this channel in the past, you know that I like to talk about how intelligence is statistically the worst save amongst all creatures in D&D, and that is similar to players. Considering that very few classes have intelligent proficiencies and only 2 actually care about the intelligence stat at all, most players will be caught off guard by this entirely. But the stun is only half the issue, because it synergizes perfectly with other actions like I mentioned earlier. Specifically, it gives the Mind Flayer advantage on its tentacle attack, which happens to auto-grapple a target if it hits, and it keeps the target stunned for the entire duration that they are grappled. And since being stunned prevents you from taking actions, and breaking out of a grapple happens to require an action, there's quite literally nothing you can do once you become grappled by a Mind Flayer. So you would better hope that your party are ready to help you out, because if not, the Mind Flayer is going to move on to its 3rd and final action, Extract Brain. And yes, that's as bad as it sounds. The Mind Flayer chomps on a grappled player's head, dealing 10d10 damage, and if it happens to bring your character to 0 hit points, then they eat your brain and your character immediately dies. And that is why Mind Flayers are so dangerous. And that's just the base Mind Flayer. Other Mind Flayers are all just different flavors of deadly with a much more dangerous spell list at their disposal. But you might be thinking that doesn't sound too bad. Since it only has about 70 hit points, you could take them down quickly and be done with it. Well, sorry to disappoint you, but let's recall what I said early on. Mind Flayers are telepathic and communicate with pretty much any Mind Flayer within 5 miles of them. This means that they're never truly alone. And even if they are for some unknown reason, I have still yet to mention one other thing about Mind Flayers. They are known for having incredibly powerful domination magic, which allows them to maintain a plethora of thralls to do their bidding. You see, a Mind Flayer's most dangerous attribute is its intelligence. It uses advanced combat tactics, and as such, its main course of action when it finds itself in combat is to throw thralls at you to whittle you down. This means that if you ever do find a Mind Flayer truly alone, which in its own right is incredibly rare, that Mind Flayer will always have a small force of thralls to throw between you and them to buy them time, all while they're blasting you with psychic energy. At which point, the Mind Flayer then evaluates the situation and determines the possible outcomes. If it finds itself with favorable odds, it will go in for the final blow, and if it finds its odds not so favorable, then it will simply plane shift away. Regardless of the outcome of the battle, your party had better prepare for some trouble down the road. Assuming that Mind Flayer was a part of a colony, which is a safe bet, every single Mind Flayer that is also a part of that colony now knows exactly what your party looks like, all of their capabilities and their weaknesses, and they have a vendetta against your entire group. So before you go head to head against a Mind Flayer, make sure you evaluate all of your options, because it will surely bite you in the head later on down the road. Before I finish, I want to give a huge thank you to the YouTube members and patrons. Also, if you have any favorite monsters you want me to cover, leave a comment down below and let me know. I read every comment, almost always reply, and who knows, I might even feature your comment in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on Friday.